La Universidad Iberoamericana Puebla les da la más cordial bienvenida a este evento y les invitamos a ponerse de pie para recibir a las autoridades universitarias de gobierno e internacionales. Iberoamericana University Puebla cordially welcomes you to this event, and we invite you to stand up to welcome the university, government, and international authorities. Muchas gracias. Pueden tomar sus lugares. Thank you very much. You may take your seats. Presiden este acto inaugural el maestro Jorge Estefan Chiriac, secretario de Educación Pública del Estado de Puebla, en representación del gobernador constitucional del Estado de Puebla, Sergio Salomón Céspedes. El maestro Mario Ernesto Patrón Sánchez, rector de la Universidad Iberoamericana Puebla. La doctora Lilia María Vélez Iglesias, directora general académica. El profesor Neil Gershenfeld, director del Centro de Bits y Átomos del MIT. Y la señora Sherry Lassiter, presidenta y CEO de la FAB24. A nombre del equipo mexicano y de la Universidad Iberoamericana Puebla, les damos la más cordial bienvenida a esta 20ª edición de la Reunión Mundial de Fab Labs. En esta ocasión, nos reunimos más de 650 personas de 48 países en este magno evento. Reconocemos la participación de más de 320 personas de esta gran red que presentarán 243 obras, trabajos, talleres e investigaciones a lo largo de esta semana. Agradecemos además la presencia de Enrique Glockner, secretario de Cultura, de Jorge Emilio Barrera, secretario de Economía, de Berenice Vidal Castelán, gerente del Centro Histórico, que viene en representación del presidente municipal de Puebla, Adán Domínguez, de Guadalupe Cuautle, presidenta electa de San Andrés Cholula. Asimismo, Conrado Cepeda y Arturo González, miembros de la Consulta Jesuita. Agradecemos la presencia también de todos los representantes de gobierno, a nuestros socios estratégicos, miembros de cámaras, visitantes nacionales e internacionales. También damos la bienvenida a quienes nos acompañan virtualmente. Bienvenidos. A continuación, hará uso de la palabra Sherry Lassiter, presidenta de la FAB Foundation. Sherry.
Buenos días, Puebla, México y FAB24. Nos sentimos muy honrados y emocionados de estar aquí hoy. We are so honored and excited to be here today with you. FAB24 Mexico is a very unique event. It invites academics, artists, engineers, scientists, makers, technology innovators from all over the world to come together with Puebla and the Mexico community for 7 days to envision and co-create a shared techno-social innovation roadmap into the future. The Global Fab Lab Network includes more than 2,700 digital fabrication and maker spaces in more than 150 countries. It is a global community of practice dedicated to sharing knowledge and collaborating to solve local challenges through its global connections. This is a network of change makers using technology as its platform for change. This week is a very special week. The mornings will start with rapid talks by members from the network, showcasing the impactful projects that they are implementing and the programs that they're implementing in their communities. The short talks are followed by a symposium that features experts and network projects in different fields in which we operate and which we work. And so today we'll be looking at Technology 5.0, the roadmap into the technological future. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we will explore education or future-proof skills. On Wednesday, we'll look into cultural equity. And on Thursday, we surface innovative industries. And finishing on Friday, covering community innovation and impact. And each afternoon will be filled with workshops, talks, and working groups designed for knowledge exchange and for planning our innovative collaborations for the years ahead. And each evening will be filled with opportunities to explore the local cuisine, which I must say is amazing, the culture, and the beautiful landscape and openness of Puebla and its people. All of the FAB24 topics that we are exploring will be explored through the lens of fabricating equity. Through this conference, we are promoting equity and social justice through technology, through frugal and innovative solutions that address the social issues that we all face. As example, a week ago, the activities started with the Fab City Mexico Challenge. It's a program designed by the Fab City Foundation to be a long-term collaboration between international Fab Lab technical experts and the local communities here in Chiapas, Monterrey, Puebla, Guanajuato, Cancun, and Mexico City. So for the entire week, over the last week, the Fab Lab members and the local communities work together to solve local challenges using global and local knowledge, or what we call glocal knowledge. The solutions are innovative and beautiful, and the collaborations that will be going forward are very exciting, and we will share the results with you later in the week. We are here in Puebla because you, Ibero Puebla, and the Mexican Fab Lab Network invited us to come here back in 2018, and we've been through many years of planning together, as well as a pandemic, to arrive at this day. And I have to say, we are so very excited for the coming week of exchange, of collaboration, and of celebration of this very innovative and vibrant community. So with heartfelt thanks to our partners, Ibero Puebla, the Center for Bits and Atoms at MIT, CIEN, or the Centro de Innovación, Emprendimiento, Negocios, that was hard, and the Fab City Foundation, thank you, as well as to our amazing sponsors, the Municipality of Puebla, the Puebla's state government, Chevron, Dassault Systems SolidWorks, Seed Studio, Magna, VW, Trotec, Celupal, Brother Industries, Form Labs, and the Matuani Jadeja Global Foundation. FAB24 Mexico could only happen with your generous support and your partnership. Welcome to FAB24. Please immerse yourself in this very special community for a very special week. Muchas gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias, Sherry. Damos paso a las palabras del profesor Neil Gershenfeld, director del Laboratorio de Bits y Átomos del MIT y creador de este movimiento. Neil, please.
Buenos dias, Puebla and the world. And I'd like to repeat Sherry's thanks to Aristarco, Puebla, Mexico, Fab Foundation, all the people who did so much work to make this possible. This is my favorite annual event. It's one of the most diverse gatherings I know, but in another sense, it's the same person in many different packages. So there's some meetings where I sort of hide in the corner and hope nobody talks to me. And there's some, like this one, where if there's somebody you don't know, just walk up to them and start talking because they have an amazing story. So this is my favorite annual gathering. So we've been counting the growth of Fab Labs as they exploded, but we're coming out of that period where instead of counting labs, we now count impact. And when we got to 10 Fab Labs, that's when we realized something was happening. And now at this meeting, we're going to be presenting 10 new initiatives rather than 10 labs, each of which that spans the whole network. So just to give you a table of contents of what's coming this week, one of the initiatives I'm very excited about is a distributed incubator. Traditionally, mentoring entrepreneurs can be one-on-one. There's local incubators. The traditional model is you go to the incubator. We're going to use the whole global Fab Lab network as a business incubator with amazing mentors with incredible life experience who you're going to meet this meeting. So that's one of them. One I'm very excited about that grew out of the gathering last year in Bhutan is 21st century vocational education. Vocational skills are profoundly important for many different reasons, but a lot of vocational training is training 20th or 19th century skills. And we have an exciting program to use the whole Fab Lab network to teach 21st century vocational skills, and you'll hear a lot about that. So instead of just traditional craft, it's things like AI and quantum technology and nanoscience and biotechnology and cybersecurity as real vocational skills. So that one's coming. We have a new jobs platform. The most important product of the Fab Lab network is you, the people, and we haven't done a good job connecting people looking to hire and people looking for employment. And we have a new jobs platform for that. An exciting project that grew out of a collaboration with Peter Gabriel, the musician, is Panopticom, a global platform for visualizing and sharing geodata. So the world sharing its stories with the world, and you'll be seeing an amazing demonstration of that. Starting in Barcelona many years ago, we've launched the Fab City program that a whole team here is involved in. What's emerging from that is a Fab City Technologies initiative on developing the technology base for cities to produce what they consume. Yet another initiative is software went from proprietary to open source, but a lot of materials and products we buy are proprietary. And so there's a high-tech initiative, Hygiene Technologies, which is open source materials for sustainable local production of hygiene, bridging between indigenous knowledge and global leaders and best practices in science. And so you'll be hearing about that one. There's a portal for the Fab 2.0 stage you'll hear today of, instead of going to the lab, going to a lab to make a lab. So rapid prototyping of rapid prototyping. There are Fab Lab hubs you'll be hearing about. There's a Fab Lab store where products can be designed globally and produced locally, and designed locally and produced globally. Then, since it's hard to follow all of those initiatives, there's a new portal we're refreshing at fablab.org to find all of these. And then finally, what happens this week isn't just this week. All of this effort is to queue up the next year. And so all of these are going to be unpacking over the next year, leading up to the next gathering in the Czech Republic. And then the year after that, we're going to bring this whole gathering back to MIT in Boston for FAB26, which is going to be a very important transitional year for Sherry and me, which you'll be hearing about. So in that slightly exhausting list, each now isn't a project or a lab, but these are really profound initiatives spanning the whole network. And so each day, you're going to hear about symposium presentations, but each day we're going to be presenting these initiatives in more detail. And then very importantly, every afternoon there's working groups so you can explore how you connect with these. So it's a very important milestone year for us, and I look forward to sharing and working through all of these with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. Muchas gracias, profesor. Damos paso a las palabras de nuestro rector y anfitrión de este evento, el maestro Mario Ernesto Patrón Sánchez.
Hola, muy buenos días a todas y todos. Realmente para mí es un privilegio darles la bienvenida para este FAB24, Fabricando Equidad. Quiero comenzar con un agradecimiento sincero y sobre todo cariñoso primero para Sherry, de FAB Foundation, y desde luego que también para el profesor Neil, del Centro de Bits y Átomos del MIT. Sin ellos no sería posible, junto con nuestro esfuerzo, que todas y todos estuviésemos aquí. También quiero de inicio dar la bienvenida al secretario de Educación, a Jorge Estefan Chiriac, quien viene en representación del gobernador constitucional de nuestro estado de Puebla, de Sergio Salomón Céspedes Peregrina. Sin la alianza con el gobierno del estado no hubiese sido posible también que estuviésemos acá. Quiero también dar la bienvenida, desde luego, que a nuestra directora general académica, a mis colegas del IDID, del Instituto de Diseño e Innovación Tecnológica, que son quienes desde adentro, desde nuestra casa, su casa, Libero Puebla, hacen posible también este evento. Quiero dar la bienvenida al secretario de Economía del Gobierno del Estado de Puebla, a Jorge Emilio Barrera. Milo, bienvenido. También al secretario de Cultura, a Julio Glogner. Julio, dos grandes aliados, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. También quiero dar la bienvenida a la presidenta virtual electa, en realidad la presidenta electa de San Andrés Cholula, a Guadalupe Cuautle. Muchas gracias, Lupita, por acompañarnos, ¿sí? Y también en representación del alcalde de Puebla Capital, a la gerenta del Centro Histórico, a Berenice Vidal. Berenice, muchas gracias, bienvenida también. Y quisiera también, como universidad confiada a la Compañía Jesús, dar la bienvenida siempre al padre Conrado Cepeda, en representación de la comunidad de jesuitas. Muchas gracias, Conrado, por acompañarnos. Hay muchas y muchos de ustedes que nos acompañan también de otras partes de nuestro México. Vienen integrantes de distintos gobiernos, como del estado de Oaxaca, del estado de Tamaulipas, y finalmente personas que nos acompañan de alrededor de poco más de 70 países de nuestro globo, de nuestra tierra, y también de distintos estados de nuestro México. Entonces, bienvenidas y bienvenidos sean todas y todos. Hoy es un día muy especial para nosotros, porque con la inauguración de este FAB24, celebramos una apuesta que nuestra universidad ha sostenido ya durante muchos años junto con muchas otras personas y organizaciones, en favor de la construcción de espacios y proyectos que permitan la accesibilidad de las tecnologías y orienten su uso hacia el servicio de las y los demás. Este importante encuentro internacional se ha convertido en uno de los más importantes foros actuales para la divulgación del conocimiento, la puesta en común de experiencias virtuosas y la vinculación con actores estratégicos en el mundo de la innovación tecnológica. Por eso, para Libero Puebla es un honor hospedar este espacio en el que coinciden voces de especialistas ampliamente reconocidos, con actores relevantes provenientes de diversos contextos y proyectos que comparten todas y todos el mismo deseo de dialogar sobre los nuevos retos, tendencias y oportunidades de la innovación tecnológica para ayudar a resolver las grandes necesidades de nuestra realidad histórica. Ante la complejidad de los desafíos de nuestro mundo, nuestras sociedades no pueden perder tiempo distrayendo el conocimiento científico y tecnológico a fines distintos del cuidado de la casa común, el bienestar general y la justicia. Las universidades, como cualquier centro de conocimiento y desarrollo tecnológico, están éticamente llamadas a poner al servicio de la sociedad todas sus herramientas intelectuales y tecnológicas para contribuir a atender con eficacia los problemas globales que nublan nuestro futuro común y nos alejan de las metas de inclusión y sostenibilidad que como humanidad nos propusimos desde la posguerra. Por eso, para Libero Puebla es un privilegio, pero también una gran responsabilidad albergar este ejercicio de rediseño colectivo del futuro impulsado desde el FAB y los FAB Labs como técnicas de inclusión y de igualación en nuestra sociedad. Desafortunadamente, en nuestro mundo, el acceso a la tecnología es todavía uno de los principales ámbitos en los que se reflejan las desigualdades que prevalecen en nuestra sociedad. Hoy, en su mayor proporción, la innovación tecnológica se destina para el beneficio de los sectores más privilegiados. Mientras tanto, para la mayoría de la humanidad, algunas de las necesidades más básicas siguen sin ser satisfechas, a pesar de los formidables avances y posibilidades que podrían ofrecer desde la tecnología para todas ellas y ellos. Por eso, en la Ibero Puebla sostenemos la convicción identitaria de que nuestras áreas de innovación y desarrollo tecnológico deben tener como horizonte la democratización de la tecnología, que debe ser liberada de las directrices del mercado que actualmente determinan su desarrollo y profundizan brechas de desigualdad, de modo que realmente pueda contribuir a concretar condiciones de justicia social y bienestar para todas las personas como una poderosa fuerza aliada de la dignidad humana. Justamente por ello, no es gratuito que nuestro FAB24 lleve el nombre Fabricando Equidad. Esa es la orientación que estamos convencidos debe guiar este FAB24 que albergamos en nuestro campus universitario, de modo que sea un verdadero espacio de diálogo interdisciplinar y transversal en estrecho vínculo con la realidad, que reduzca el desarrollo tecnológico y lo conduzca en realidad hacia el servicio de los sectores más desfavorecidos de nuestro entorno. Antes de terminar, quiero reconocer los esfuerzos de las numerosas personas que están detrás de la organización y de la realización de este evento, no solo en nuestra universidad, sino en muchos otros lugares del mundo. En especial, quiero agradecer la sociedad estratégica que hemos construido con la Fundación FAB y el Centro de Bits y Átomos de la MIT, sin quienes este evento no sería posible. Asimismo, aprecio el invaluable apoyo que nos ha brindado el Gobierno del Estado de Puebla, así como de las administraciones municipales de Puebla Capital y San Andrés Cholula. Para el Ibero Puebla, el compromiso y generosidad de todas las personas involucradas son signos de esperanza que nutren nuestra vocación de ofrecer una educación de excelencia académica socialmente pertinente. Por último, expreso mis mejores deseos para que este FAB24 produzca numerosos frutos, no solo para quienes aquí participamos, sino que para toda la sociedad, especialmente para quienes hoy por hoy se benefician de las virtudes de la innovación y del desarrollo tecnológico. Y deseo finalmente que los vínculos que aquí se establecerán sean fuertes y duraderos, para que juntos podamos ayudar más fácil y más rápidamente a transformar positivamente las realidades locales y nuestra realidad global. De nuevo, sean todas y todos bienvenidos a su casa, la Ibero Puebla. Reciban un afectuoso abrazo y con mis mejores deseos para este FAB24 les damos la bienvenida a la Universidad Iberoamericana Puebla. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos.
Muchas gracias, rector. Finalmente, escucharemos las palabras del maestro Jorge Estefan Chidiac, secretario estatal de Educación Pública, en representación del gobernador constitucional del Estado de Puebla, Sergio Salomón Céspedes. Secretario.
Muy buenos días a todas y a todos. Con un mensaje afectuoso del señor gobernador Sergio Salomón Céspedes Peregrina, quien se siente muy orgulloso de que se realice en Puebla esta reunión internacional de Fab Labs. Puebla es su casa, les damos la más cordial bienvenida y espero que estos 7 días sean para ustedes muy útiles y que Puebla también para ustedes sea una nueva casa y se lleven una gran impresión de nuestro estado. Qué bueno que se haga en Puebla y qué bueno que se haga aquí en la Ibero, a la universidad a la que le quiero reconocer todo su esfuerzo. Señor rector, la Ibero es punta de lanza en la educación en Puebla y estamos muy orgullosos también del impulso que ustedes están dando. Déjenme decirles que Puebla, para los que no están familiarizados con Puebla, es un clúster educativo muy importante en México. En términos per cápita, Puebla compite con la Ciudad de México en el número de alumnos inscritos en educación superior. Y en ese sentido, después de la Ciudad de México, diríamos que somos la segunda capital educativa del país. Tenemos muchas universidades, pero todas de calidad. Todas como la Ibero, el Tecnológico de Monterrey, la Anáhuac, algunas locales como la UPAEP, nuestra universidad pública, la Universidad Autónoma de Puebla, que es de las más importantes del país. Cientos de miles de estudiantes estudian en Puebla, incluso ya es para Puebla un clúster económico la educación superior, donde nosotros cada vez más fortalecemos la educación superior, y hoy viene el Politécnico Nacional a Puebla, y en los próximos días, el día 26 de agosto, inauguraremos las instalaciones y las primeras generaciones del Politécnico Nacional en Puebla, con el CITA también, que es un centro de investigación tecnológica de clase mundial, donde ya invitaremos también a participar al Politécnico, junto con la Ibero y todos los que estamos aquí, para el desarrollo de estos Fab Labs. Va a ser una aportación importante la presencia del Politécnico, habrá hasta 10,000 alumnos en su momento. Y también en la Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla se inaugurará próximamente un segundo campus con 30,000 nuevos matriculados, pero en carreras técnicas, no en carreras de ciencias sociales, sino también dando la oportunidad para el desarrollo y la innovación. Y aquí quiero decir que Puebla es un ejemplo del trabajo que se puede hacer cuando se trabaja la parte económica y la parte educativa. Si están separadas y no se trabajan de manera conjunta, nos puede pasar como en muchas ocasiones que teníamos mucha gente que estudiaba pero no trabajaba, o que aportaba poco en términos de productividad. Lo que queremos son mejores salarios, queremos empleos mejor pagados, queremos también que el Estado de Puebla, el país, avancen rumbo a un futuro, y aquí el trabajo que hemos hecho con la Secretaría de Economía, aquí se encuentra nuestro secretario de Desarrollo Económico, hemos conjuntado los trabajos de la educación, y aquí hay rectores de las universidades públicas que coordinan la Secretaría de Educación, que también van a participar. Hemos hecho un trabajo conjunto para que podamos tener educación dual y para que podamos también vincular la educación a las empresas, y que las empresas aprovechen la educación para poder desarrollar tecnológicamente sus temas productivos. Así que nos sentimos muy, muy orgullosos de esto. También quiero darle la bienvenida al secretario de Cultura, porque nos van a apoyar también con algunos temas culturales en estos días que ustedes estarán aquí. También la Secretaría de Turismo nos ha estado apoyando. No se encuentra aquí la secretaria, pero le quiero dar las gracias también, porque para nosotros también esto es un evento turístico, académico, tecnológico, de vocación educativa. Y bueno, yo lo que sí quisiera decirles finalmente es que yo espero que al final del día este encuentro, como lo dijo Neil, que tiene 10 nuevas iniciativas, se traduzca en un mayor bienestar social. Por eso es que la Ibero es el centro de esta reunión. La Ibero es una universidad con vocación social y es una universidad con un enfoque de igualdad. Y eso es lo que queremos en México, mayor igualdad. Y la educación es la única oportunidad que hay para la igualdad social y para la movilidad social. Gente humilde que accede a la educación puede aspirar a lo mismo que una gente de muchos recursos. Es el igualador social más importante. Y en ese sentido también deseo que estos 10 proyectos salgan adelante, pero también quisiera, como se dijo aquí, que este es el evento favorito de los Fab Labs cada año. Yo quisiera que el evento favorito de todos los Fab Labs de la historia sea este de Puebla, que sea el más exitoso y el más productivo para todos. Así que bienvenidos a Puebla y que todo esto sea un éxito. Felicidades.
Antes de despedirnos, quisiera aprovechar este momento para agradecer a los más de 150 compañeros que nos acompañan de los institutos, universidades tecnológicas y politécnicas. Bienvenidos, compañeros. Agradecemos la presencia del Honorable Presidium, a quien pido despidamos con un caluroso aplauso. Muchísimas gracias. Haremos una pausa de 5 minutos. Les pedimos permanecer en sus lugares. We will pause for 5 minutes. Please remain in your seats. Thank you very much. Muy buenos días, vamos a continuar con el programa. Los invitamos a tomar asiento y les recordamos que en la parte de afuera hay equipo de traducción simultánea para todos los que lo necesiten. Okay. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. We remind you that outside, most of the conferences are going to be in English. If you need some translation equipment, it is outside. A continuación, guys. A continuación, tendremos la presentación del ballet folclórico Yoloistak, presentando los bailes tradicionales de los estados de Yucatán, Chiapas y Puebla. Next, we will have the presentation of the ballet Yoloistak, presenting traditional dances from the states of Yucatán, Chiapas, and Puebla. Please welcome them with a warm applause.
okay? Okay. Wait, where is this? So ours are here. Yes.
Wow. Thank you for that beautiful cultural experience. That was absolutely lovely. Yay. There's one more hand for them. Well, welcome everyone. This is really wonderful to see you. Thank you for coming from all parts of the world to be with us this week and to share the knowledge that you have and to be so generous with your time and your expertise. We really appreciate it. And also the community here, thank you for hosting us and for working with us all over the last few weeks. This conference has been a little bit complicated. We had 7 locations for this conference. 6 of them were for the FAB Challenge. We had 6 different challenges, or was it 7? It might be 7. And then, of course, this is the main event. And so a lot of planning and a lot of logistics went into this. And so thank you to the team for pulling this together. I mean, it's extraordinary. So this week, we have, each day, we have a different theme for our symposia. Today is the technology roadmap, Technology 5.0, and you're going to hear from some amazing people today about both sort of the state of the art, but also about initiatives in the Fab Lab network. Tomorrow is really education and future-proofing skills, so we've got 3 very, very special guests, including Dale over there, Dale Daugherty. Hey, Dale. And then on Wednesday, we'll explore cultural equity, and Ari Starko will lead that, but he has got some wonderful people from the world and from Mexico to talk about cultural equity. On Thursday, Alejandra Diaz will lead the symposium around innovative industries. And then finally on Friday, Tomas Diaz will talk about and bring in people to talk about community innovation and impact. And so those are the themes, and we really are trying to center our conversations around social equity, right? And so it's so important now more than ever in this environment, in this climate, especially as all of our politics and our politicians get a little more conservative. It's just really, really important to think about this. And so there are a few special events this week. This is all, I just want to kind of give you an overview of and the logistics of what you need to navigate through the week. Tonight we have the Academy graduation. It will be here, and then there will also be a reception afterwards, a wonderful reception, and we will have a mariachi band. So please come tonight. Tomorrow, the conference, we don't have a special event. Tomorrow night is a night for you to go out and enjoy the city and the culture on your own. On Wednesday, the same. It's time for you to meet with your friends and experience the culture and the cuisine here. On Thursday, we have Beyond Fabric. So this is a fashion show around textiles and biofabrication and digital fabrication. It's an absolutely wonderful program that is planned for, where's the location? San Roque, that's right, San Roque. And then also on Friday, we will have a closing reception also at San Roque. So encourage you to come to all of those events. They're going to be beautiful, really beautiful, and a lot of fun. So now there is an exhibit. There might be a little bit of confusion. There's an absolutely beautiful exhibit of both textiles and fashion, but also of artifacts from the network that are related to sustainability, and that is at San Roque. It will continue. I think someone said it might not continue this week, but it is there all day, every day, and we'd love for you to go by to see. I've been to see it, and it's beautiful and really, really moving. So I'd encourage you, if you get any time off, to please go to see the Artifab exhibit up on exhibit through August 9th, so the end of the week. Now, this is the exhibit. I believe that if you follow this code, it'll take you to where you need to go there. But it is extraordinary. The place is also extraordinary. It's a former sort of institution for sort of, mentally challenged individuals in the old days, and they've renovated it to be an absolutely stunning, stunning statement to their past. And then this is the runway, the Beyond Fashion Show, which will be on Thursday night. And then, so this is the Ibero Wi-Fi, okay? So it's under the network name of FAB24, so please connect. And, now this is important. FAB24, that's the group that you want to join to find out what's happening within the conference. And so we would ask you, though, that when you sign up, please give your whole name, because we have to approve every person. And if you just give us your first name, we don't know if, it needs to match your registration. So try to sign up for FAB24 with your registration, the same name that you used in your registration. And that's the way we'll be communicating changes, et cetera, throughout the week. Now, we're on a beautiful campus, Ibero Pueblo, and there are rules to being on a campus. After all, this is a place, needs to be a safe space for everyone. And so no smoking is allowed inside of the campus. If you want to smoke, please go outside of the main gates. No alcohol is allowed. Inside, you'll see when we get into EDIT, which is where most of the workshops, the hands-on workshops happen, there's a machine area. You cannot wear open shoes. You cannot wear jewelry, we suggest you don't wear jewelry, especially long, hangy things like this, right? And please do not wear your hair down if you have long hair. It's it could be very dangerous, so. Also, they require that PPE be worn inside the machine area, so Ibero staff has PPE, so please check in with somebody to get PPE if you need to use a machine. And then no drinking or eating inside any of the computer rooms, not even water, okay? So those are the rules of the road. And then we just ask you to help us keep the area clean, keep Ibero clean. There are lots of recycling bins that are well marked. Please use your FAB24 bottle that you found in your bag. And there is filtered water, which is available in Building J. And please help clean up after each of the workshops. It really, really, really helps to prepare for the next session. So, okay, this is the map. We're right here in the main auditorium, I think you see right there. And EDIT is over here. This is where most of the workshops are happening this week. Right here, I think, let's see, where are the portals? These are the portals, the typical doors for you to come through in the morning. If you're coming by Uber, you just say, I'm going to Ibero, and they will take you here. But there's also an entrance over here as well. I think if you say EDIT rather than Ibero, they'll take you to one of the others, okay? Let's see. Yeah, all of our mornings will be spent here in the pink area, right? And the registration hours are from 8 to 4 today, from 9 to 3 tomorrow, 9 to noon on Wednesday, and basically Thursday and Friday. If people come in late, we'll just send them to the information booth. Okay, so here's EDIT. This is where all the workshops will happen. If the number, like J, has a 0 behind it, that means it's on the ground floor. And if it's got a 1, it's on the second floor or the first floor, depending on how you count. This is the machine area right here, and also these areas. These are all where machines are. And so this is where you'll have to wear PPE. You have to, if you want to use machines, you have to get authorization from one of the team to do that. You have to schedule it, basically, okay? And let's see, where's the coffee breaks? In the morning, you can see where the coffee breaks are happening, but also this is sort of a map to the bathrooms, the first aid kits, et cetera. Now, transportation, we do recommend. Uber works fabulously here. And DD is the local instantiation, right? You can use local taxis, but they don't usually speak Spanish, and so, I mean, English, so I would say if you don't speak Spanish, try and take an Uber. Well, what do you think of the weather? You know, I think it's pretty nice. It's it's 25 degrees, and the coastal area is around 35 degrees, and it's really, the evenings get very cool, so be sure to bring something to, and we get a lot of rain here as well, so be sure to bring something to keep you warm. Again, thank you to our partners and our sponsors and our collaborators. We didn't talk about the collaborators early, but Fab Lab Puebla, Fab Lab Impact, 3DFW, Fab Academy, Fab Textiles, and Academy are all our very close our collaborators on this project. And we really, really couldn't do this without all of you. We're so very grateful. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sujit Jain, who is Vice President of Business Strategy at Dassault Systems SolidWorks. He's going to talk a little bit about their relationship with the Fab Lab network, what we do, and empowering innovation. Sujit, come on up. You come on up. Come on up and help.
Right?
That's it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Sujit.
Thank you. Good morning, buenos dias. How's everybody doing? Neil? Okay, so I'll very quickly go through sort of our relationship. As Sherry said, a lot of you probably know what Dassault Systems or SolidWorks does. My goal today is to give you a very quick preview and our relationship with Fab Foundation and with MIT and CBA, what we have been doing. So SolidWorks software, our DNA is we started by engineers. Oh, yes. Started by, I'm usually animated, so. Started by engineers, 100% focus, dedication to engineering, and of course, a lot of focus on customers. A lot of the products you see around you, cars, planes, shoes, jewelry, a lot of our customers are using our products to design those in the industry. And we are very much laser focused on improving innovation around CAD and engineering. Today, we have over 7 million designers, engineers, like a lot of you probably are using SolidWorks as well, across various industries, from life sciences, industrial equipment, home and style, and so on. And in terms of the audience, we make sure we've been, from the very beginning, back in 1994 onwards, STEM education was very important for us. So a lot of investments we do are around that, and our relationship here with Fab Foundation and MIT is related to that. These are some of the things which our customers are designing. As I mentioned, jewelry, connected devices, home, cars, and so on. But more importantly, you know, you will feel it as well if you spend some time with SolidWorks. We believe we are a community, and we are really you. We are the designers, engineers, hobbyists, makers, artists across. And I've been working with the organization for more than 20 years. Especially with Sherry, Neil, probably 10 plus years, and we enjoy every time working with the innovation you guys are doing in the space. And here are some examples of startups and companies which were small and now becoming bigger. Boom is a company which wants to make the next supersonic plane. Of course, our customer, the video placeholder. I don't know if I have to click, Novella? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, this was interesting if the video played. This is the humans flying. This is Gravity Industries out of UK. This is every picture you see I've visited our customers, and this is whitewater slide in Seattle area. Another interesting video, maybe playing, not playing, Dexide Robotics. So they're creating the next level of kitchen. And again, our software, what you see is what the people are creating using our software, all from concept design all the way to manufacturing, and also maintaining the the life cycle of their products in the future. This is Mike Schultz, Olympian, Paralympian, who's doing foot designs and stuff like that. This is D. Sutter Medical, doing medical innovation. They use SolidWorks for designing everything in the suturing. This company, the founder goes back a long time, and they claim that they invented the suturing in medical industry. As I mentioned, STEM is very important to us, and over 10 million students across the world. I've been to Mexico before, Tec de Monterrey. I've been there. A lot of the students are using SolidWorks, perhaps here as well. I'm not sure. This is UBC I'd visited, where they're talking about capstone projects and how students are using for this robotic designs at UBC. Something which I personally am a lot involved with, because actually you probably will see one of my younger sons up there, Kunal. So SolidWorks outside the classrooms are not only in teaching and curriculum, but in student competitions, because outside the classroom is how students are learning the most. So this is FIRST Robotics. A lot of SolidWorks is used in designing these robots, SAE, Formula Car, etc. And jumping into our relationship a little bit with FAB Foundation and so on, and you'll see a lot of pictures which will tell the story, of course, of anybody who was in Bhutan last year. A lot of us, right? So there you go. You've seen some pictures from there, or Shenzhen, if you guys remember Shenzhen. Yeah, we did a tour with Neil there. Yes. Here is, by the way, there's a picture here with the Boston one we did, FAB Foundation. So Murray Blanchard, who's co-working with me, is up in the screen, but this is one of the Fab Labs there as well. A lot of work we did together with Neil during the COVID times as well. You'll see some of the pictures with the PPE design and different things. So showing that this was a nice animation. If it showed up, a project personally I worked on as well on a fluid flow dynamics of doing a new type of a mask design. And one of the things which we are very proud of, thanks to Neil, we had the opportunity to contribute to a Fab Lab every year, right? As you might have heard Neil talk about the $10,000 and $100,000 and $1 million Fab Lab. These are probably the $100,000 Fab Labs, and we have done we have worked very closely with Vigyan Ashram in India, which is also, a lot of you know, Fab Zero, or in Bhutan, or with Alex. We started with Alex in Rwanda and on Chile. And from there came we're going to talk a lot more later on about the Fab in a Box project. How do we, rather than doing one, how do we do many of those Fab Labs? This was just, Sherry, I think you were up there on the picture at Tomba, you might remember, during those times. So here is Fab Lab Rwanda. Neil, you might remember Tony Blair, who was up there at the time. But I'm just telling you a story of our relationship. We are deeply involved in a lot of these. This is my personal visit I did to Vigyan Ashram. This is in by Pabal, near Pune in India. They do a lot of grassroots innovation. So this is really a quick story of what we do and how do we work with the FAB Foundation. And my purpose today was really to ask you later on to come to ask me anything session which we will have in the Innovation Lab today at between 3 to 3:45 p.m. So thank you.
Thank you, Suchit. Suchit, SolidWorks has, they funded they seed funded, I can't, Neurology, can you help me find? They seed funded our first K-12 work, and in addition, as he said, as Suchit said, Fab Labs in Rwanda and in Bhutan and in Chile, the very, very southern point in Chile, just before you reach Antarctica. They've been amazing, amazing partners over the years, and now, of course, with Fab in a Box, which is really going to democratize, we think, will help democratize access to the tools for innovation from far more people. So, well, it's that time. We've all been sitting. We have our Mexico team is going to lead Fabersize. So everybody stand up and let me invite the team on stage. Yes. Hello. Oh, and by the way, this picture is of El Popo, and Neil took this in the airplane yesterday, so it was a great picture. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you, Sherry. Graduados, por favor, suban. Hi, hello. How are you? Good morning. My name is Maximo, and I'm very happy to see you all here. Happy to see a lot of faces from around the world, from different countries. Some of the best minds and most interesting minds reunited today to share ideas. I believe you are gonna have a great time here in Mexico. I really hope you experience the full spectrum of activities that we have prepared for you. So right now, I see the room is a bit cold. So we want to warm you up. And for that, I would like to invite the director of the Center for Bits and Atoms of MIT, the founder, one of the founders of the FAB Foundation, and one of the main reasons that we are all here today, Professor Gershenfield. Yeah. So guys, who many of you have danced before the Macarena? Raise your hand. 1, 2, oh. So this is gonna be very easy. So let's get started. Hello. Hi. So Macarena is very easy, so we are just gonna do a brief review for you. It's very quick steps. So follow me. Now with our right hand, it's gonna be right hand, everybody. 1 in front, left hand, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Now let's get 2, 4, 3. Sorry, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and spin. And let's jump to the left. I mean, I think in the chairs it's gonna be a bit different, a bit hard, but if you can jump to your left, it will be very fun. So, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, spin and jump. Okay, to the left, guys. So music, please. Okay, guys, so are you excited for FAB24 in Mexico? Welcome, everybody.
Okay, everybody, break time. So coffee here, please enjoy the outdoors. We're only gonna give you 20 minutes for coffee break though, because so we can stay on time. So take a break and we'll see you in 20 minutes. And yes, with the panel for Technology 5.0, please come to the stage. Thanks.
Tecnología 5.0. Hello, everyone. Please start getting ready. We're going to start with the Technology Symposium panel, so please be seated. I already. Could the panelists of the next session get on the front row? Eric Penn. Who else we need? Quentin.
Eric.
Daniele.
Let's see, we still need Danielle.
Gracia, please be in the front row.
Let's see, Dan's there. I'll wait just a minute more.
What else do we need?
What's that? I'm just waiting a minute more. Yes, all meetings I run sweeping. Okay, let's start this session. Hi, I'm Neil. And each of the next 5 days in the symposium, we're going to start with some talks and conversation, and then we're going to transition into the initiatives. Since some of you weren't here at the beginning, I'll quickly recap. Rather than counting Fab Labs, increasingly we're counting impact. This meeting, we're rolling out a number of really exciting network-wide initiatives you'll be hearing each day. Just recapping from this morning, one is a distinct global distributed incubator. One is FAB24's 21st Century Vocational Education. One is a jobs platform for employers, employees. One is Panopticom, a global data geo world sharing platform. Fab City Technologies, the technology base for cities producing what they consume. High Tech is open materials for local production, starting with a focus on hygiene. Machines is all about today. Labs making labs. Fab Store is designing globally, producing locally, designing locally, producing globally. There's an updated portal to see all of that, and the event sites. Each of those isn't a project, it's a network-wide initiative. I'm very excited about, you'll be hearing a lot about each of them. So in today's session, this is the basement, which is where I tend to live. This is the enabling technology that makes all the rest possible. All of the transformative impact traces back to just the fundamental enabling technology, and we're going to dive into that. And for today's session, we have some remarkable people, along with a few remarkable challenges. So one was, many of you know Manu Prakash, who was very eager to get here and is now sick. Manu couldn't come. We filled in some other people in the program, and then Manu delighted and slightly alarmed us with a 23-minute video for the meeting. So I'm going to do injustice to it, which pains me, but I'm going to just play bits of his video to give you a tour of it, but we can't take all 23 minutes, but we'll post the video afterward, and you'll be able to do it in detail. So with some abuse, let's see, let me make room here. With some abuse to Manu's video, sorry, I'm going to rearrange up here. Good. I'm going to do something slightly disruptive. I hate to do it, but I'm just going to jump through bits of his video so you get a sense of it. So think of this as sort of highlights, and we'll share after. So if we go to here, and
hi, everybody. My name is Manu. I'm a faculty at Stanford, and I've been associated with the Fab Lab community for a very long time. Apologies for not being able to make it this year. I've been at sea for almost a month and haven't had the chance to spend time at home. I think since I can't make it, I decided to just put together a quick video sharing some of the things that we've been working on, which I would have tried to share with you all if I had actually come. Most of you know us for a lot of work that we do in the context of biology and marine biology, and the thing that I want to focus on today is just a new class of instruments that we've been building for life sciences that are accessible as broadly. I've taken a few sets of projects to a fairly large scale. I don't think I'll have time to talk about every one of the projects that we do in the lab in this framework, but
and just to annotate as I slightly disruptively jump, at the heart of Manu's presentation is this really important point that he does frugal science, which doesn't mean low tech. He does very advanced science that's frugal. And it's a common misconception that those don't coincide.
just share a few hints and examples, very specifically focused on microscopy, something that we've been working on for a long time. Another important thing to microscopy, automated fluidics, and many other tools that really integrate and build an ecosystem of scientific tools. But before I tell you that, I think it's important to sort of establish how we got to do this type of work and where does this philosophical framework come from. There is a hardware component to it. Now we've been building an app that any of you could try now. And primarily it's a crowd-funded data of the microbial world, essentially trying to make a map of what microbes live where and what do they do. It's a pretty open community in the ocean. Most of you know that our oceans are dramatically changing, the pH, the temperature, and for the last 7 to 8 years, a lot of work that we have done. He does indeed sail with a chicken. He's also the youngest sailor to cross the Canadian Passage in frozen times. He stopped by the lab. And at that time, we had been thinking about how to retrofit sailboats around the world with imaging hardware. And one of the powers of this tool is over time, we started realizing how incredibly valuable it is to be able to, in an automated manner, image microbial life forms. We put this site together where you can find the build plans for this. It's called planktoscope.org. Every little detail for building a planktoscope is online. And we started building this and supporting it in the community now almost for 2 years. This is a type of data that comes out of it, which is you can take any aquatic sample, you can toss them in this automated instrument now that costs a couple $100 to $1,000. It will image every single cell in that little sample and classify it. It has an ML engine built on top. Samples have been uploaded with millions of objects all across the world, including from the Arctic to the Antarctic and everywhere in the we've been working on malaria diagnostics, especially in East and West Africa. This is a picture from one of our field sites in Senegal, in rural Kédougou. And one of the challenges that exist in malaria diagnosis is for the last 150 years, the diagnosis hasn't changed that much. This is one of our field sites in India of malaria, which are the HRP2 and 3 genes. But the parasite that's circulating has this gene deletion, and simultaneously there is antibiotic resistance. Fully automated system in 2024 that does real-time diagnostics. I'm just going to skip to show you a demo for the same. I can take a finger prick blood, make a thin smear, and put that on the machine, and in real time it's capable of reading between 5 to 20 million cells. And this allows us a kind of an unprecedented field of view, and on the right are individual pathogens being detected in real time. Now, this is the first time we can do something like this for malaria. And the reason we've been able to do this is actually a trick from astronomy, where we can measure a DNA to RNA ratio in a cell to be able to detect a pathogen. Now, to do dengue, and very recently we've also shown in published work with Raman spectroscopy to be able to actually do sepsis and sepsis diagnostics in blood. What's fascinating about this approach is that the same tool with AI sets of components is capable of running between 10 to 20 different pathogen identification points. Between 20 to 30 different scientific instruments have been built on this framework. One of the things that I'm excited about is what I showed you, Octopi, but on the other hand, very recently, we've also built high content screening tools and also actually a confocal microscope built on this platform. So this includes the modules, the systems, the applications, the community. Left, you're seeing a data set from an instrument that we built that allows us to do lifetime imaging, while on the right are cell cultures and incubators. Now we've been deploying these tools in pretty extreme places. One of the examples are Ebola clinics in Liberia. We have a long-term partnership with open source robot. We've been able to build an entire platform for doing high content screening, which you can see on the right. Now this setup is actually capable of imaging community. Now another set of an example associated with this is training. We've partnered with Optica as one of our to communities that have never had the chance to really engage in this framework. And finally, I want to end with a large-scale farm that we're starting to build that essentially includes hundreds of these instruments, a few sets of robots, to build an entire pipeline for bioinstrumentation, all integrated in a single framework, a single compute framework. And of course, one of the powers of much of this microscopy data is that now we have the capacity to process them through a lot of machine learning. So I'm going to close with this slide. I'm sorry I went a little bit over. I think it's important to understand, in the spirit of the FAB community, we would be delighted to support any of the FAB labs in bringing microscopy, and especially high-end microscopy, to the labs. I think the microscopic world is both beautiful and powerful, and I'm hoping many of you will get a chance to engage with it in the near future. And then again, I apologize for not being able to come, and I really hope I'm able to connect and talk to some of you offline. Bye-bye.
So, let's see, I hate to do all of that 25 minutes in 5 minutes, but it gives you a taste of the amazing stuff Manu's doing on Frugal meets high tech, and he's very serious about reaching out and connecting to all of you. So we'll post the video through the meeting site, the links to it, and take all of that not as something to admire, but as an invitation to participate in. So that was Manu. Next up is the secret thing that powers the Fab Lab network is Shenzhen. We just couldn't do it without the Shenzhen ecosystem in so many ways. And right at the heart of the Shenzhen ecosystem is Eric, Pan, and Seed. You can't miss the AI explosion, but a great deal of that is big companies in the cloud, and Eric is here to talk about how AI becomes personal. It becomes something you can hold and own, not something that goes far away. And so, Eric. Great.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Neil. Hola, amigos, familia. Very good to be back to FAB event every year. So it feels like there's so many pressures to squeeze something new to deserve all the trust and the interest over what we are doing. So today is generally our invitation to co-invent the needed wheels. Back to us, CIDA has been existing for 16 years. This year we have changed our slogans. We call ourselves AI hardware partner. So in short, what we have been doing for the last few years is, but how can we have more IoT into meaningful data then feed into meaningful AI at your control? So we tried many years to go from possibility to productivity. And our business model has been like this from the beginning. We outreach to all the silicons or new technologies and put them into open source modules so people can use them as bricks. But above this picture, during this session today, I'm thinking, what you guys have been very good at is to turn bits into atoms with all the fabrication tools. And what we have been doing for the last 10 years is about how can we distill more bits from the atoms, like sensor network, like edge computings. But I think it's our job to make it much easier and keep it open to work more to bring more meaningful solution. And this is my second time to Puebla. I even missed the volcano last time here, but I didn't miss a lesson from Aristotle. And he brought me to a local Fab Lab they sponsored, they supported. It's in a very, very humble building where you don't see it a Fab Lab like looking from outside. It has been like an abandoned house, and they've refurbished it into a mini Fab Lab, and inviting the local community to come here to learn fabrications and use their a new tool to create the arts they like, and then sell to the tourists and other business around. So this reminds me of blacksmiths. So if we look back 1,000 years, blacksmiths has all over the planet. It's by default the decentralized manufacture. And it has a lot of similarity to Fab Labs, but it's much faster, it's more digital. You just spend days to new skill sets. And we are very much focused on innovations, while blacksmiths is very much how can we create more value and to support the local economies. And coming back to the DIDO vision, I love a lot. But there is a gap. How do we go from product in, trash out, which is now, to 100% data in and data out? There should be some way that gradually move into that ideal moment. And there should be maybe a hybrid mode. So if we look at the supply chain of blacksmiths versus today, what we can change now is we don't need to build everything from scratch, but we can share a lot of middleware, something half-made. But the blacksmiths, or nowadays techsmiths, aka Fab Lab, may be able to help the local demands because you are so close to the local needs, answer to them, and customize the existing gadgets or furniture, whatever you have, towards their needs. So I think this can both benefit the local economic efficiency, but also use better on the collective powers. So after we have building so many wonderful replacements with a local manufacturer, I think one topic I want to bring today is about AI. How can we add AI to almost anything? So how many of you have been using Xiao? Wow. And how many of you have been using Xiao with AI? I think too few of that. So I think it's time to rethink all the AI possibilities, rebuild all the projects with AI. Because it has been much faster, cheaper, and greener. If you look at the Xiao, like ESP S3, like for this year, we have a processor which is 10 times faster. You can detect a person 30 frames per second. And the energy efficiency is going, like if you want to accomplish a similar job with Raspberry Pi, it's like 4 watt. Now it's 0.3 watt with microcontroller level AI. Which means we can do a lot of things without considering, oh, AI is so chunky and it's too big. And the key is how do we make it simpler? Let me try if this is going to be playing. What is this? Okay. So they're training image classification in a few minutes. Actually, in 1 minute. So this is from teachable machines to capture data sets with a few download, upload, tuning. And you quantize with 4 microcontrollers, and you tag them with all the objects you want to identify. The goal is to monitor the room, the meeting room, with the TV left on. Then you download without any coding, download to the AI gadgets, AI sensors, and tune a few of the parameters. Then use the app to download it to some gadgets like this. Let's do some operations.
No people in the meeting room.
So this is from last week, and it's going to be much simpler in 2 weeks without all the manual work. Ideally is you take out something and look at this room, these scenarios, take some pictures of different status and tag it. Then you train this AI with what you want to do. So I think we're getting there because tiny machine learning has become cheaper, more pervasive. You can embed it into all kinds of things, not something you wear, but maybe the space, the meeting room, or the machines you are operating. Meanwhile, the generative AI is providing more insights, and it's much easier to deploy on the edge. So you can have running a JSON or even a gaming PC, you can have the local GPT. Then if we combine them together, you have embodied AI. You have bots, you have R2D2 that you can make very simply with all the fabrication tools you have. So the tiny machine learnings out in the wild can squeeze more data. They can compress the data into meaningful ones. Like if I'm looking at a picture, it's actually, you don't need to send the picture back. You just tell people what you see with AI. Then the generative AI, by collecting more meaningful data, they can form a vertical understanding of whatever is happening. Like we can have a avocado GPT and telling the farmers how, according to the sensor data, you should operate on the plants. So they can provide more pervasive insights. Well, that sounds difficult. But so we spent many months this year trying to put our best engineers to build some physical AI agent. So this is called a SenseCap Watcher, and it's like large language model device for smart spaces. It's not, you can wear it, but it's how about we replace this with trunky menus operations, just talk to things and train on that. And this has UART. This is totally open source, and it goes with the shell, so, or other like platforms. You don't need to disassemble your projects, just plus AI onto it with UART. I think we can make a lot of existing projects more intelligent. And I think this is just the foundations what we can talk about today. How about we co-invent more needed wheel? So again, I'm using the FAB City diagrams. Like I'm so amazed by the FAB City challenge. Like in the last few days, talking to people, see the results. I think what we are doing is far more than just a contest. We are actually moving the whole maker movement, the FAB lab network energies to the real world. With the local communities, with real users, you build a loop. So how about we bring it to the next level? So if there is something we build globally, collectively together, SEED would like to help you to pilot, build them in scale. But we are not stopping there. We want to share whatever we use to manufacture it, all the test plans, all the needed help, so that you can distributedly manufacture in local fab labs for the solutions that your community wants most. It can be partially, it can be completely. You can build everything from like what we built. Or you can just take the components or the circuit boards, but fabricate a different enclosure. We're going to be very open to that and keep the loop goes on. I think that's the only way we can enable more like spaces going on, like these villagers. So remotely, they deserve to have a fab, very minimalistic fab station. And we need to convince them by giving them more meaningful solutions. So let's work together to simplify this way. And so we can do this from small gadgets. Like there are so many AI untapped. There's so many of you haven't been using AI. But what if you can rebuild your current projects with AI? We are very looking forward to help you to scale that. Very simple. Let's put up a video and let's send it to social media if people want it, have enough votes, and we get them produced. Our engineers will work with you to get them made and distributed in the community. And we have a workshop about the tiny machine learnings, and it's happening on Tuesday afternoon. Small gadgets, or how about we look at the solutions, evolving system that creates pervasive impacts. I think Fab Challenge gave me a lot of scopes over that. And then there's one solution I'm looking at mostly is about hazard response. I'm coming from a place which is very easy to have earthquakes in the west of Sichuan in China. So whenever there is a hazard, no matter it's flood, earthquake, or whatever volcano eruptions, the first one is you need to resume the communications. That's what we do with the new tools, the new LoRa mesh statistics. And then we need to have more sensors out of the early warning systems to know the risk factors, and to respond to that. And then we need to manage all the resources. So how about we put all the critical needs into a box, into a suitcase that you can carry to the real fields. It's not to showcase, but to really resolve the problem together. So only by doing that, I think we can enable more fab labs or even remote fab stations to carry the technology we create to meaningful outputs. And we have this afternoon a workshop, last page. And how many of you haven't been to Shenzhen since last FAB12? Welcome back. This year we are going to have the Maker Fair in November 16th, and we are going to talk about enchant everything with AI. So that's it. Thank you.
So that's very much, each of these talks you should take as an invitation. It's very much an invitation to come to Eric's workshop and see and touch and use what he's doing. I am personally obsessed with Xiao's. So let's see, I'm going to close this, and then for the next one, I'm going to come to here. Let's see. Let me make sure this is the right one. Then we go here, and then we go here. Okay, so for the next talk, I'm going to put a series of words in a sentence that I think have never been combined before. CERN and Lego approached me about doing a Fab Lab quantum challenge. So that's the sentence. This is the CERN Lego Fab Lab quantum initiative. And when that was unfolding in the last week, and when Manu wasn't able to come on short notice, I reached out to Michael, and within about the last 24 hours, I gave him a slightly impossible challenge, which is present his quantum Fab Lab work, present the CERN Lego quantum work, and for extra credit, I threw in an MIT colleague. And so that's what they're going to do. And this is all about 24 hours old. So let me invite you and your colleagues to come up. Thank you, Michael.
Now we want to motivate you for your quantum future. So I'm Michael, I'm from FabLab Bottrop, and I founded the FabLab in 2012. And now I would show you 3 different presentations. The first is Your Quantum Future. That's an initiative of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research in Germany, and the first quantum FabLab that we are. So my question to you is, isn't it a good time to start global FabLab quantum challenges? You might ask why. And one reason is that the United Nations proclaimed the next year, 2025, for the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, and many countries are celebrating this. And the second thing, of course, beside AI, is that quantum technology is one of the key technologies for our future. But now, how to get qualified employees? Always how to integrate quantum in lifelong learning. For new employees in 5 years, how to get students to study quantum, and for new employees in 10 years, how to interest young students for quantum. Or as our colleagues from CERN say, we need a grassroots, hands-on quantum education revolution. And why not start in Fab Labs? So our team, our Quantum Future team, did the following. We are now building quantum mini labs rolled out to 100 places in Germany for hands-on learning with low-cost equipment. So you can start with simple optical experiments and you end up in building a quantum sensor of second generation, inexpensive, modular, scalable, and repairable. So what we are doing is based on OpenUC2. You might know this initiative. They, for example, build customizable, low-cost 3D printed microscopes, and they use these building blocks, these optical building blocks. And with this optical building blocks, for example, you can realize a very simple Michelson interferometer by having a plate with magnets and with these cubes, for example, this one with a mirror. So that's a starting experiment for quantum technology, interferences, and so on. But, for example, you end up with an ODMR, with an optical detected magnetic resonance experiment where you have a small diamond, and in this small diamond you have quantum dots. They are called nitrogen vacancy centers, and this nitrogen vacancy centers you can measure magnetic fields by light. And in the next step, which is called coherent control of NV centers, we can scale up the sensitivity to measure the magnetic field of your heart or your brain, and we can use it as a qubit. So that's one of the possibilities to make a quantum computer by using small diamonds and using this technology. That's the first initiative. But there are other initiatives. For example, the SDG Fab Lab challenges in cooperation with CERN. So the STC Solution Space. What they did is the Lego to Nano, and what they do now is the Lego for Quantum. So what is Lego to Nano? That's a few years ago, and they built an atomic force microscope for kids, and they launched it at Global Open AFM Initiative. So here are some slides, and what did they do with this? They measured pollution and particle size with this DIY AFM with school students. And here's the status of the open source AFM. You can build it by your own, and it's developed furthermore. But now they started a new challenge, a hackathon about quantum technology. And in a few days, in August, there is the WebFest 2024, which is the result, where they celebrate the CERN summer school results. And starting from this point, they launch a global competition in 2025 to build a quantum kit for school children. That's the second initiative. And now we are switching to the MIT Open Quantum Project, the third initiative. It's called Open Quantum, and it's about getting code atoms in more classrooms. You can visit the site openquantum.org. And, well, what are they doing? They built the missing quantum ecosystem, a low-cost open source for cooling and trapping atoms. That means there were the blue part with the magnetic field around us. I don't know, do I have a cursor? No, yes, I have. There is the trap. This is the magnetic part. And inside there are rubidium atoms, and you can cool them with laser light using the Doppler effect. So, and they built that at open source ecosystem. It's called a magnetic optical trap ecosystem for rubidium atoms in an ultra-thin vacuum, and they reduced the cost from 350K to 30K, and you have an open source complete hardware and software and, of course, educational material. So you can hands-on experiment with these new machines. Well, you drive down cost, you increase engagement, you make something possible, for example, in Fab Labs, what was not possible before. So, what's your idea for a Fab Lab Quantum Challenge? Perhaps you might start with something simpler. This is an acoustic trap. This is one thing we brought with us, because we have a workshop which is called Quantum Mini Labs, Building an Open Source System for Second Generation Quantum Technologies. Or you can also look at the final of our colleague Michael Bannerman to learn about that. Thanks.
So, thank you for taking that on in 24 hours. To understand how it relates to you, you may think, why do I care about quantum? But the quantum world is literally, not metaphorically, but very precisely, literally, exponentially bigger than the classical world. And in that world is the essence of the secret of life, of cryptography, of computing, of so many things. And the tools you heard about conventionally today cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're turning into hundreds to tens of dollars that are accessible in Fab Labs. And so really thinking about a quantum future for part of the expanding Fab Lab ecosystem. And many of the people Michael mentioned were part of a program I ran with the US National Institute of Standards a few years ago on open metrology, on taking advanced measurements and turning them into open designs. And we're going to be reprising that in 2025. So lots to come on quantum for the masses. So just in these last few presentations, you've heard about frontiers of scientific measurements, technology, becoming accessible on a Fab Lab scale, really fundamentally changing what you think you can do. And in the second part of today's presentation, you'll hear more about that from Quentin and Danielle. It leads to, where does this lead? And so I'm delighted. Let's see, where's Alex? Back there. Starting years ago, I helped, through friend of a friend, advise a number of Hollywood movies. And then years ago, the National Academy of Sciences invited me to help with their public communication. This is like the most prestigious science organization in the US. And they went to Washington and spent a whole day in a meeting where they talked about pamphlets they were going to publish. And at the end of the day, I kind of stood up and said, screw up my courage, and said, you must be joking. Nobody's going to care about these. But I have some friends doing movies in Hollywood. Do you want to go talk to them? And so we did this amazing event with Alex where we brought movie makers and scientists together. And there was this gasp where the scientists said to the movie makers, you mean you'd actually talk to us? And the movie maker said to the scientists with a gasp, you mean you would actually talk to us? And so it led to creating the Science Entertainment Exchange, this office for science and popular media, which isn't about telling science stories. The storytellers know how to tell the stories. It's the backstory, it's the context, it's everything that happens around it. And so it's been hijacking popular media to tell good science stories. And so that's how I got to know Alex, or actually came to work with Alex. And so he'll tell you his background. He's been a production designer on many remarkable movies, and that's led to a career on world building, which has significant implications for our future. So, Alex.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks, Neil and Sherry and FAB24 for this invitation. I think I was at a very early FAB. Right. Okay. So I want to tell you a little bit about my practice, which is called world building. Hopefully it'll make sense to you by the end of this. But a little bit of background. So in 1975, I was an art student in London. And simultaneously, right at that time, there was a massive revolution in the music industry, and it was called punk, the punk movement. And the art schools were in the center of that. So I began to engage with the Sex Pistols and the Clash and a lot of the bands at that time. And not being a musician and trying to find something to do, I designed record sleeves for them. That led in turn to music videos quite quickly. Again, a massively revolutionary time in the film space, not even recognized by the film industry actually, but the one space where you had to do something completely original every week. And hundreds and hundreds of times, every new band had to have an original video. So that took me to the US, took me from video into film industry, and I've spent about 30 years in the film industry working with a lot of great directors, David Fincher, Steven Spielberg, Terry Gilliam, and had an opportunity to really enlarge the idea of what is the capability of design. What does design mean in relation to storytelling? Around 2000, I entered a new phase of that filmmaking with Steven Spielberg, which I'll talk about in a moment. But up to 2012, I was working in the film industry, and then I was asked to join USC as a professor to teach what I had been practicing. At that point, I left the film industry, became a professor at USC, teaching world building in the School of Cinema, University of Southern California, and at the same time, to sort of pay for my teaching habit, became a creative director in a company called Experimental. So we've been working hand in hand between entertainment media and this application to the real world of this storytelling practice. I think this quote's really pertinent to all of us. We are now in a space that's like a ground zero. We no longer have stories, the historical narratives that we have been used to telling, particularly in the last 600 years, when the sort of post-printing press, where we really rely on the single author, the single kind of brain on the stage to tell us what we should do next. The ground zero that parallels, I think, what Yuval Harari is talking about is the very beginning of storytelling, the oral tradition, the origin of dance and music and art and the oral tradition to stimulate, to transmit what was being discovered. So making sense of the world around us was fundamental to storytelling. I'd argue that we're only here now because of storytelling, because the stories gathered knowledge. The knowledge was passed through those stories down through generations, and for millennia, that evolution and innovation that allows us to be where we are today, for good and bad, is really the result of that notion of storytelling. And I think that's radically different from that storytelling that we're used to in the sort of Western 600-year tradition. And this moment now, I think we believe we have to return to that idea of massive collaboration, of a ingestion of oral storytelling and a transmission of that, but using completely different platforms, and platforms that you all know well that have an amazing capability to transmit new knowledge. So as Neil was saying, the start of this was, for me, year 2000. So right at the turn of the century, Steven Spielberg took on the Philip K. Dick novel, Minority Report. What was kind of unprecedented was there was no script. You know, films only get funded by scripts unless you're Steven Spielberg. And Steven said, while we wait for a script, let's develop a world. We had very few rules. We knew we were in Washington, D.C. We knew we were 50 years in the future. We knew that it was an apparently benign world. And we knew that there were three precognitive beings at the center of the police department who were predicting murder and violent crime that was being then put down, stopped by the police division. So this notion of precognition was fundamental. We were also challenged by Stephen not to make a science fiction movie, but to make a movie that was based in future reality. And that required a whole new level of research, really reaching out to what was happening in the world. And Neil was front and center of that. So Neil and a group of experts, highest level domain experts, came together to advise the direction in which we imagined the world would take and what was possible based on what we know now. One of the things, as again Neil was saying, is quantum was kind of balanced with this notion of precognition. So quantum physics became the container, the sphere that surrounded literally the precogs and allowed us to believe that precognition was possible. One of the things that Neil said, actually, that's been influential in my entire career is, I've never been asked to imagine precognition before, but I think we can do it. And that idea of starting with the notion of what we know now and projecting forward, imagining, using the power of storytelling to say, well, what if? So that's what Minority Report was. It was what if precognition was possible. So as well as advising the way in which this would work, Neil was also very specific for me as a designer on the details of that. The precogs floating in a milky fluid that I can't quite remember why. Headsets that were designed to capture the brainwaves, capture the way in which they were thinking. And this envelope, this spherical ceiling, designed to be a baffle for the thoughts of the precogs and keep those contained in the space. So the next level of problem was a lot of this future required us to physically create architecture that really didn't exist. We had to go to architecture. We had to start using new technologies. We were the first digital art department in the industry in order just to account and be capable of designing something that would look like 50 years in the future. And this baffle system needed to be precision and very complex. And so with the coordination of architects and with Neil and people with a specialist, we went out to a fabrication shop in San Francisco called Chrysler, who for the first time ever received an entire digital workflow from the data, the design, all the way to the fabrication, 3-axis CNC fabrication of these panels. So we were enveloping, at the year 2000, we were really transitioning from the Victorian industrial kind of manufacturing and media systems into something completely new, this shift into the 21st century very appropriately with this film. What I discovered also was by being required to create this future that didn't yet exist, and based in reality, we did this research. We went into labs. We went to MIT Media Lab in depth. We went to DARPA, the research space for the military. We went to car companies. We went to Apple. And we tapped into what they were doing in their labs at that time. Minority Report's now known and continues to be known for being completely prescient. So this quote, when it comes to movies that predict our future, Minority Report has no equal. The reason for that was we were not being so clever. We were just listening carefully. We were listening to what was going on in the world, and then we had this opportunity, very large budget Hollywood movie, to actually envision how that research, this innovation, would play out in 50 years. So when we stood back from the film, we realized that not only had we created a world that allowed a narrative to exist before there was a script, That in itself upturned the industry. But also we'd created these threads of narrative being driven by innovation. And it was clear to me that you could build worlds that were no longer to do with media industry, but to do with particular questions that you could ask of this world that already existed. So if you were looking purely at transportation, the future of mobility, there was complete innovation. We designed the first ever autonomous vehicle based on combining an elevator and a taxi cab just because the story needed it. We completely reimagined the future of cities. We were creating new technologies. The gesture system came directly out of a PhD project of a student out of MIT Media Lab working in the film. And targeted advertising, year 2000, I think Amazon was a twinkle in Jeff Bezos' eyes, but it's completely, obviously, we're enveloped in it. We were able to see that play out because the story allowed us to imagine it. By 2004, I kind of had to develop a foundation for this practice, this new idea of a holistic gathering of data. And this platform we developed called the Mandala was the way in which we aggregated that knowledge. So it has multiple axes, but here we have this ecosystem that ties together some principles that one could apply to any world: the ecology, the governance, the economy, its infrastructure, its culture, and its resources. So you're asking questions about each of those things for any world you examine. Imagining Minority Report, we need to know all of that for that. And then scale, which is a huge component of that, because the elements that are important in the world change according to scale. The scale at the governmental level changes radically if you go from an education system to a school to a student. Obviously, there are different lenses at each stage. So we're placing these points of knowledge in the intersection of the ecosystem and the scale, with a particular focus on the street corner, which I'll also speak about in a moment. But the street corner is the microcosm where all of these things come together, where you can imagine the intricacy of a world can be captured by a street corner, metaphorically. Now, how do you apply that? This starts transitioning now out of the aggregation of knowledge to make a movie into the aggregation of knowledge to actually look at worlds out in the world. So this is an example of a mandala that was developed for the 5,000-year history of pasta, as one does. So the mandala on the right here, you can see the intersections of these points of research and the position based on scale and ecosystem. But we also have an added axis here, which is the lens. So the color coding of this allows us to say, we're asking specific questions here. We're asking about mythology, we're asking social issues, we're asking about the natural, the agricultural, and the notion of innovation through this 5,000-year history. You're creating an engine, really. This is absolutely under the hood. So this is the machinery that drives the way in which the world foundation evolves into outcome. You know, as a designer, I'm only really interested in a practical outcome. So we build a machinery in order to cater to the complexity of the ideas that emerge when you're trying to create any world, because everything connects to everything else like a machine. So this transition was from the entertainment industry, more or less around that time, 2012, that I moved into USC and started a research lab, to see how we could use this incredible power of storytelling, of media across all platforms to change the world, to really re-examine the way the world works. And we've worked with a very large array of partners and clients. We've worked with Nike with the future, look at a 30-year future of sustainability. In each case, we're drilling down into the human narratives. We're driving people, stories, even 30 years in the future. Oh dear, okay, I'm going to zoom forward, to create new narratives. So Okay, I'm really going to zip forward. This we did for the American Society of Civil Engineers. We developed 5 cities. We turned it into 2. We looked at innovation in a floating city and everything that one would need to examine as an engineer. 145,000 members, losing undergraduates to other education programs, engineering programs, because they didn't know how to envision the future. So the megacity was compressing that whole spherical world through the city, the district, the neighborhood, these verticals into the street corner, a fully game-based, interactive media-based teaching program, which is now being used in 65 different universities in the US. I'm going to have to try and accelerate this, but this is the core of where we are now. This is our current research project. It's triggered by the provocation, scientists don't know how to tell stories. That in molecular biology, there was this closed system, esoteric, very difficult to get outside, the very deep knowledge of specific components of molecular biology, and these big voids between the different aspects of these verticals. These voids that need to be filled, and there needs to be a new system for doing that. So we were tasked with the idea of creating new art science language for molecular biology. We had to pull apart the esoteric complexity of the way in which the protein data is encapsulated in a cell, with the idea that the complexity of a cell is equivalent to the complexity of a city. So we understand a map like that one in the center, as complex as a system as it represents, we know how to navigate it. We also know that there are systems in place, data systems like a metro system, that can convert the geolocated mapping complexity into a system for navigation. So we took that idea, took that complexity on the left, and created a new metro map, essentially, of the passages through a pancreatic beta cell. Our focus has been on the pancreatic beta cell because it's the core of solving diabetes. So the other part of the translation was the protein data bank. 1 minute. Okay, these are long minutes, thank you. The protein data bank is the source of all the data that informs proteins. It's been, since the 70s, it's been conveyed by this ribbon diagram. It's, again, pretty esoteric, very hard to tell one protein from another using this system. What we have been doing is developing essentially a Lego block, a Lego building system that it accurately, scientifically accurately portrays every protein based on an intersection of amino acids, each represented by a tetrahedron. And this tetra system is now capable of replicating any protein from the protein data bank, from the core data, but in a way that can be comprehensible for school children, and we're teaching in high schools, undergrads, we're teaching undergrads, to PhD students who are now collaborating with us, and to the general informed public, and mostly to collaborate between scientists. So how do we fill those voids? That's the task. This is just to do with storytelling and empathy and recognition. If you recognize the different constituents, you understand their behavior, you understand their function. And this is the system we have now. So it's all based in VR. It's a fully immersive system. It's portraying the interior, the conditions of a cell in a way that has never been seen by a scientist. That we've never been able to see relative scale because the scale differences of mouse to a mountain. But we're able to establish all of these axes, the identity, the recognition, the empathy with that identity, scale, activity, behavior, data, interaction, time, space. We can condense this by really exploiting technology that is really the only platform that we could use to do this. But there's a huge way to go. We've got about 30 proteins in one cell. We now have code that translates that protein data bank data into the actual proteins, and this is my last slide. We've created code now that will create these proteins. They're static. We're now looking for help, actually. We're really looking to AI, I think, to see how we can create activity and bring them into section. So that's my argument is that, or premise is, world building is fundamental to all of our disciplines. It is, as it says here, it's the fundamental multidimensional system that can accommodate any discipline, any practice. It's based entirely in the fact that we're all focused on human need. And it's looking at how you provoke new capabilities into existence that don't yet exist. It's fundamental to pushing evolution and innovation. Thank you very much.
Okay. So three things. First, I feel like we could just cancel the rest and have Alex talk for the rest of the day. I'd happily just do that. But we have a lot else we need to do. The second thing is, he's not here just to tell these stories, but specifically to look at how all of this applies to what we're doing. We're building a new future. Generally, we've been working forward from what do we do next, what's the next technology, not back from envisioning the world we're creating and how do we live in it. And so he's here to help drive that connection. And I want to make what's in football called an audible, where you change the play in real time, which is today we have working groups to unpack the morning. And between, let's see, 1600 and 1800, we have a working group on the FAB1234 you're about to hear about and the distributed incubator you're about to hear about. But I want to pull Alex into that. And let's add world building to the working group. And so in that whole sequence, we'll look at how you take everything he just told you about and how we connect it to the network. And so view all of this as an invitation to get to know Alex and to really think about how we bring in world building. And just for extra credit, the amusing connection is the co-lead of experimental design is my brother Alan, which is another amusing story. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Now, the next thing I'm going to do is try your patience a bit by playing 20 minutes of video in about 5 minutes, and then the whole session will go about 5 minutes over to give half an hour to Quentin and Danielle. And the reason for this is you just heard remarkable science, technology, impact. Now we're going to transition into machine building. And to make that transition, I had invited a remarkable person I've been getting to know whose flight was sadly canceled by the hurricane making its way up the east coast of the US. And he's really sad about that. And so he sent us, I asked for a short video and we got about 20 minutes. And so the first part of it is just a video on his company. And I'll briefly start that.
My name is Steve Wallace. I'm the owner and CEO of Phantom CNC, and we've been in business now about 4 years currently as Phantom CNC.
We'll post this.
Phantom CNC
that's
would start.
The shiny video, but what I wanted to do, and it's very emotional for him, is let's see, is it this one? Yeah, this story. He has an incredible life story about why he turned into a machine builder and why machine building isn't just fun, but how it changes people's lives. And so this is very heartfelt, and it's sort of an abuse to jump through it. But I want to just do vignettes for you to get to know Stephen as part of the transition into machine building. And again, we'll post all of these afterwards.
So let me start this video out by apologizing for not being able to be there today. My flight was actually canceled yesterday, and the next flight out was actually going to put me a day late. The CEO and owner of Phantom CNC System about artificial intelligence, because it actually, and this will go to something that I think is very important. You know, friends are people that tell 6. And or Motel 8, I'm sorry. And anyway, we'll leave the light on for you. Now, at the time, I had never met Tom Bodette, but he was friends with Neil, and I think maybe I can get you up there to take a look at the labs. And I think you have, I guess, what's sort of caught degree.
So, okay, so this is...
Don't have a college degree, and really not much more than a high school education. And when I graduated high school, I immediately joined the U.S. military, served a tour in Iraq, was injured, spent about a year in the hospital in Iraq, in the States from Iraq, and got out of the military, worked on the farm some, went into law enforcement, where I subsequently served about 23 years. And I built cabinets and woodworking and studied electronics. And when I first started, CNC information was hard to get, electronics information was hard to get, but as YouTube and some of these other informational medias came out, it became easier and easier to get it. And I'm a big believer that 25 years ago, really your educational routers, some 5-axis machines, we're working on some 6-axis robot arm. That really, that got my attention.
So he's pausing because this is so emotional, and I'm going to stop here just mindful of time. But he has this remarkable life history of high school education, law enforcement for many years. He started using machines. They weren't satisfactory. He connected to the Shenzhen ecosystem and started working with them to design custom machines. It led to this machine building company. But he does it, as he describes it, for people to put food on the table. And so he's deeply invested in helping machines that help create livelihood. And through this connection he narrates in the video, he connected to me and to Fab Labs, and he's deeply moved by what you're all doing and wants to connect his machine building operation to everything we're doing, and just speaks really eloquently about this isn't just recreation. Again, as he describes it, it's putting food on the table, helping people survive as a really existential thing. Really moving, really remarkable person. So we'll post and share all of this. And then all of that is the intro to 2 other remarkable people. So I'm going to close these, and we from here want to go to, let's see, this one is not there, and not here, and let's see, Norella, we lost the tab with Quentin and Danielle, so, yeah. So, yeah, while she gets it up, we're now going to transition from the talk part to the initiative part. And so the first speaker is going to be Quentin. And from the very beginning, I had this sense of a roadmap of FAB 1234, or sorry, 01234. And so Quentin's going to present the FAB 01234 roadmap, and then Danielle is going to present the state of the art in FAB 2. And so this is now transitioning from not talks to these are initiatives in the network and very strong invitations for you to participate. Thank you, Norella and Quentin, please.
Hi, I'm Quentin. I'm a researcher in Neil's lab, and it's my pleasure to be here. I'm going to do the impossible task of summarizing most of the research we do in 8 minutes. So it's going to be a little bit intense. So Neil mentioned the roadmap, FAB1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to unpack each of these stages, but basically this is our plan for making digital fabrication as universal as the smartphones you have in your pockets. And so the first step is to give access to machines, to people, right? And you do that by bringing digital fabrication equipment to the people. So you have one great example here with the Fab Lab on this campus, but there are places that can't afford that kind of equipment. So the most impactful project in that vein that we worked on this year is Fab in a Box. This was a project that I worked on with Claire and my colleague Alfonso. This was a joint project between CBA and Fab Foundation. And this is a mini Fab Lab, one order of magnitude cheaper than the typical labs that you find. It has a 3D printer, a laser cutter, a vinyl cutter, and it comes with a computer and all the curriculum you need to discover the machines. Now, what's really important is that you don't learn to use each machine separately, but you learn how to use them together in a cohesive manner to really unleash your creativity. Now, if you want to see this, we actually managed to ship it. So it's here on campus. I think it's in the makerspace. And so if you want to try it out, and we managed to fix it using the equipment here. So there will be a workshop, and you can get your hands on it or just discover the machines there. Now, the other thing you can do is bring machines into an existing space that's skeptical of digital fabrication. So just a few months ago, Neil became the first scientist in residence at the Pilchuck School of Glass, which is the largest craft school for learning how to work glass. Oh, there's someone from there here. No? Okay. This is the largest school for learning how to work with glass in the US. And of course, those are craftspeople. They hate computers. So how do you bring digital fabrication to them is the question we were trying to solve here. So one thing we did is bring this very cheap $600 milling machine, and we showed them that they could engrave arbitrary 3D shapes into glass. And this does not replace them by any means. This is just a tool for preparing the glass that you can then shape into any form you want using traditional glass blowing methods. So my colleague Alfonso showed this beautiful example of two slabs of colored glass that he milled and then fused together. And now you have this, analog mix of colors. And then on the right, you can see just a classical, I'll speed up. Could be okay. Transparent glass carved into an arbitrary 3D shape. Now, the other thing you can do is lower the barrier to entry. As I mentioned, they really hated computers there, so I worked on this nifty system to go from a drawing to a mold that you can blow glass into. Now, you see on the left, there's this frame around the drawing that lets you scan the drawing and then turn it into a 3D model without even touching a computer. And then we 3D print the mold, we cast plaster into it, and now you can blow glass into arbitrary shapes. So if you want to try out this drawing scanning system, you can come to a workshop Wednesday afternoon. Okay, now Fab2 is about making machines yourself, right? Once you have your own Fab Lab, you can start making your own equipment. And the point I want to make here is that those machines can actually be better than what you find in the traditional industrial world, because they can be tailored to your exact needs. So here's one example. This is a collaboration with NIST. My colleague Jake worked on this 3D printer that's instrumented to death. So it can measure the flow rate of the plastic that it's extruding, and it lets the printer discover the exact settings you need to print new materials, and non-material, challenging ones. And he recently published a paper on that, and it's really a good read. But basically, you put any printer, any 3D printing filament in there, and you discover the parameters for using it. And that's thanks to this special extruder. Now, Jake designed it in a way that you can replicate it in any Fab Lab, right? Those are all 3D printed parts, the gray and orange parts that you see here. Now, when you're prototyping a machine, you don't really know in advance what modules you're going to need, right? And no one really wants to dig into the low-level microcontroller code that you often need to do when you do that. Well, some people do. I really like microcontrollers, but not everyone does. So we also made this system. This is called Modular Things, and it's a system to let you mix and match machine parts on the go, right? So if you want to add a motor, you just add one device, one USB cable, and you're ready to go, because you don't even need to reprogram the inside of the motor. You just plug it into your computer, and it tells you exactly what it can do. This is a line of research we call object-oriented hardware, because each part of the machine is a software object. Okay, now FAB3 is about assemblers. When you want to build larger structures, one really convenient way of doing that is to assemble building bricks. And the advantage of that is, well, first of all, you can go as large as you want, but also this metamaterial has excellent mechanical properties, and you can program them locally by changing the type of brick that you place there, right? So those are 4 different types with different mechanical properties, and you can make a material that behaves differently in different places. Now, if you want to assemble such a big structure, it's not practical to do it yourself. So my colleagues, Miana and Amira, are working on these robots that walk on the structure as it's assembling it, and it can build a structure orders of magnitude larger than what was possible before that. This is an example of a structure we imagine building in space to observe exoplanets. And you see that there's a swarm of robots that collaborate to build this structure. It's also extremely accurate because the robots can correct the errors as they're assembling the structure. Now, if we go in the other direction, you can imagine that electronics itself could be made out of tiny modules. And so this is the work from my colleagues, Alan and Eric, for making modular electronic components that you assemble into an on-demand board. So there's a hierarchical system where you have basic building blocks. This is a transistor, for example, and if you want to make something like a little computer, then you can compile the logic that you want to build directly into an assembly of those tiny modules. And the advantage is that you can also disassemble them and reconfigure them later rather than just throwing the circuit board to trash. Now, this is how they are assembled currently. And you might be thinking, you know, it would be a lot cooler if the assembler itself was made from modules, right? So good news, this is FAB4, where the machine itself that's assembling the modules is also assembled. This is a thesis from next student, Will, that was about assembling this little crawling robots from modules very similar to the ones you just saw. And I'll finish with this little video of this robot getting assembled, and we'll skip that, all right? So, do you want to choose?
So I'm sorry to rush you. There's just so much good stuff. Everything's over, and we need to manage blood sugar and be able to get you to lunch. So thank you, Quentin. Because we still have Danielle and one more very important thing. So that's vignettes of the FAB1234. Then Danielle is a star Fab Academy grad turned instructor turned driver of the FAB2 transition, and 7 minutes.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Garcia, and I'm gonna introduce you about the Open Lab Starter Kit. So I'm currently the CEO of a small company in Germany, having 8 crazy people, all Fab Academy graduates and coming from the Fab Lab world. And we have been driven a lot of open hardware machines since a long time, starting with the large format laser cutter, continuing with the first laser cutter in the Fab Lab inventory, recently integrating AI in the new machines. And now we are going to present you basically the state-of-the-art of the OpenLab Starter Kit. So the OpenLab Starter Kit in substance consists of 8 different types of machines, basically the whole Fab Lab inventory. But what it contains are fully open source machines with open design, accessible design and documentation. A lot of knowledge transfer because people building this machine will understand how they work. And our design is especially focused on being replicable locally. So this means that all the machines are made with standard parts that you can find, for example, I don't know, in Africa, or Indonesia, or in Ukraine, or in USA, and so on. So we also have been doing papers about this open source approach of our machines. There is also a book that you can look at it at the booth where the Fab box is. And the machines are like nothing without documentation, without knowledge transfer. So what we have developed is our own in-house open source software to document the machines. This consists in an online 3D viewer which guides you through the process of assembling the machine. So for each step, you're going to know what tools do you need. You can make the explosion of the parts to see how they are assembled, and you can select each single part to see what part they are. So if you don't know what is a cap screw, you can click and it will point to it. So this that you see on the screen is a full Fab Lab inventory of open source machinery that you can replicate in your own Fab Lab. It consists of a large format and small format CNC, 3D printer, laser cutter, and in addition, we also have a vinyl cutter and a 3D scanner. So I hope I have enough time to go through the whole machine. So we'll start with a vinyl cutter video. So we also made a desktop format 3D printer with Clipper and Core XY. Then we also have a large format 3D printer. So as you have seen, this machine has a Core XY flying gantry, but the specialty is that we use kinetic joints in the 4 points of the gantry in order to make automatic self-leveling. And we have a system that is able to scan the mesh. So this printer has a printing volume of 1.3 cubic meter. So we also developed a small format CNC milling machine with a tool changer. And we also recently finished this large format CNC, which is the full size CNC, so 2.5 meters times 1.25, which for the first time has an integrated pneumatic system. It uses a lot of industrial components like C-servo motors, ball screws, and all the axes. And it's entirely made of standard beams, square beams, so there is not a single specific part in it. So this machine also employs a 14 tool changer and the pneumatics to clean the tool and to raise up and down automatically the dust cover. So we also have a small format laser cutter machine. This, for example, is already deployed in several schools in Germany that can move up to 1 meter per second. And now we present you the new large format laser cutter, which is our most advanced laser cutter at the moment. All right, so this is the first open source laser cutter which employs RF laser source. So no more water in the laser source in the pipe. It's air cooled, it's much more safer. It has multi-source, you can plug and play with the diodes and other sources. And it's the first one with the laser tool changes. So every time the laser changes the tool, it basically adapts the focus and all the settings for the new laser source. So most of our machines are part of for what we call the Open Lab operating system. It's our own open source built-in software that allows you to do the CAM on board of the machine. It has the file management, it has integrated the AI, it can even give you the 2D and 3D job preview of what you are going to do. And last but not least, we want to go from a Fab Lab made laser cutter to a fully massively produced open source laser cutter that will become hopefully our product. So thanks a lot.
So it pains me to rush everybody like this, but that is, this whole meeting is an invitation to do all of these in person. And so what I want to do now is we're going to go about 10 or 15 minutes into the break with two very special people. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up a web page. Sorry, Jean-Mi, no, sorry. distinct.academeni.org. Okay, thank you. So, Danielle ended with, I want to fund the development and deployment of this. One of my greatest frustrations in the lab network is we've been identifying all over the world talent. We've been giving them skills. When the schools were failing them, we developed in it. So we brought the tools to them, that's working. When the schools weren't keeping up with them, we developed the globally distributed education program, that's working. And then they've been falling off a cliff. Incubation has been failing. Locally, it's anecdotal. And traditional entrepreneurs, we would pair with these grassroots inventors, and they'd both end up frustrated. The entrepreneurs would feel like the inventors aren't following their instructions. The inventors would feel like the entrepreneurs weren't telling them anything useful. What was going on was kind of fighting the last war. And so Distinct is a globally distributed incubator, and it's based on the model of the FAB Academy, where instead of central learning or by yourself with a computer, it's distributed. Students have peers, mentors, and machines locally that we connect globally. FAB Academy brings the campus to you. In Distinct, we're going to do that for incubation. So rather than you incubate by yourself or you come to a central site, we're going to use the whole Fab Lab network as an incubator. And to launch that, I've been reaching out to a remarkable group of people who share a character that they've been very successful with lots of arrows in the back, developing and mentoring businesses, are now at an interesting life stage to think about their legacy in the future of the planet, to serve as the equivalent of the faculty of the mentors for this globally distributed incubator. And in fact, what Danielle's last slide is a perfect introduction to the need for that. So let me introduce Dan and Diane to come up and we'll have a conversation. Now that's on, good. Diane and Dan are two of the mentors in the incubator. We're right now in a seed phase, running some cases through it. And so to transition into it, I'd like each of them to take about 5 minutes and tell their entire life history and what it means for you. So, Diane?
Okay, really quickly, I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland, really racing sailboats, and that led me into naval architecture, which I studied at MIT, but while there I spent all my time at the AI lab. And I eventually wrote software for offshore structures, and I ran engineering for Windsurfing International, and then I went and changed over to work in computer science. And I worked for a few companies, and then I left, and I started 3 different companies, all had very successful exits. One of them you might have heard of is VMware, the virtualization company. I was there 11 years. And after that, VMware was started at the same time as Google, so I knew the Google people pretty well, and I went over to Google and brought what is now Google Cloud into the enterprise. And then after that, I went back to MIT and was the chair for 3 years, which is how I met Neil. So,
when she says chair, it's chair of the corporation, the governing body of MIT. Yeah. She's very modest. You have to unpack things, she says. Go ahead.
Okay. So now I'll spend my remaining time trying to summarize what I've learned about building companies. So first, clearly you have an idea, and when you have this idea, you have to say, well, what is the first step to building this company? Really, everything after that is navigation. And so oftentimes, the first thing is to prove something's possible, prove the open source advanced laser cutting machine is possible. And then the next step, which I like, is the one where you create real value for a customer, real value for people that want to use it, and hopefully for a group of people that are pretty large. And I thought I would, so for instance, at VMware, the first thing we did to show that virtualization was possible, we had to boot a virtual machine on top of physical hardware that mimicked the physical hardware and let you control it. And it took a few minutes to do that, and that was not viable, so we didn't take any money until we could do that quickly enough that people would use it. And in terms of an example of navigation, I just last minute changed my example. I thought all the talk about open source, when VMware used Linux to boot itself, and then it used all our own code, and Linux had a GPL license on it, and our first partner to take us to market was IBM, and we were all set. We were the first outside software company they were ever going to take to market. We were beyond thrilled, and then their lawyers got involved and said, you can't work with us because if we use your GPL software, it will contaminate every piece of software IBM owns. And that was quite a blow, and then we had an idea, and we said, well, what about, IBM had a really vaunted partner program. They had the best partner network in the world at the time. We said, what about if we went through your partners? They said, yes, that would work. And we got the world's best distribution mechanism because of our GPL software, because the IBM partners then took us to the server market. The core concept in navigating, as you navigate, is removing friction. So you want to remove friction to getting your product out in the market, adopted, and used. So maybe you use partners to get it out in the market, or whatever, distribution mechanisms, but then you find out if you need tools to help people adopt your software. For instance, with VMware, we made a tool that would automatically move you from a physical machine to a virtual machine, or we made a tool that would go out on your network and tell you how underutilized all your servers were and what you would save if you used VMware. And these were just as important as the product was in order to getting out into the market. And then we found we had to have people to hold the hands of customers. So I'll close with a piece of advice, which is I learned when you're building something, when you're trying to build a company, you kind of think about it 24/7, all the time. So you're the world expert. And you're going to go out there and you're going to get advice, and some of those people are really famous people. And what I noticed was the most famous people really gave very bad advice. And so you have to filter it. You have to remember what makes, to ask yourself what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And then the last point about that is when we went to raise money, first we talked to VCs, and we thought they had some terrible ideas about how we should start out. And so finally, but we wanted to get outside credibility. And so we thought, well, who has money and is actually an expert in our area of the world, in systems, in computer systems? And we went to 3 well-known people. You might know them: John Hennessy, Andy Bechtolsheim, and David Sheridan. And in about 5 minutes, they said, how much money can I put into your company? And so it's just to go to people that can understand what you're doing. Thank you.
So Dan, your whole life story in a few minutes.
Okay, we'll be quick. I'm from Israel. When I got out of the army and got my degree in economics, not technical, but I wanted to get into I always liked technology. I joined a startup. And big failure, some eyeballs. I don't think there was an actual business model, but it was fun. And I figured out that I did not know at all what I was doing. And so I said, let me go learn from other people. And I joined the consulting industry, and I ended up consulting with Monitor and McKinsey across the Middle East and Europe and then the US. I finally moved the industry, became the chief strategy officer for Lenovo, the computer company. And so I spent quite a few years traveling around the world with Lenovo, both overseeing acquisitions of startups, investments in VCs and startups, as well as solving any problems that were on the CEO's agenda. And that led me to becoming, actually running a business. And I moved over to Brazil and actually got to do real work. I lived in Sao Paulo for a few years and turned around that business. So we grew the Sao Paulo Lenovo business from 300 million to 1.5 billion, which was a lot of fun. After doing that, ran Latin America, including Mexico, for a while, and then moved over to be a turnaround CEO for private equity-owned companies. So dealing with a little bit bigger companies. So I spent the last 10 years turning around and selling IT services companies that are owned by private equity that have reached a problem. And when they get into trouble, that's when I come in, I fix them, and then I sell them. And so my 3 pieces of advice really are from the problems I've seen in companies I've turned around. And maybe as you guys build your companies, you can think through and avoid these problems. Number 1, I think, is around planning. I find a lot of times companies that are especially grown fast, they have a long-term plan, and they have a 3-year plan, or they have a 1-year plan. And they don't have a 3-year plan that has multiple steps to it. And so really think through your planning, don't just have 1-year plan and don't have a vision, and don't have a vision and don't have a plan of how to get there. And so make sure you have the 2 perspectives of plans. Advice number 2 is make sure you ground yourself in metrics and operating metrics. I know it's really easy to prototype. It's really fun to prototype, not easy. I graduated FAB Academy last year, so definitely not easy. And not cool to have homework again after 20 years, by the way. After you prototype and you then make a few, then you want to start manufacturing. And you want to make money. But money is just the score at the end. To see how you're running your business right now, you need to have metrics of how many things did I build today? How many of them worked? How many of them failed? How many of the fails failed again? And so make sure you build metrics into your business as you grow it. And then finally, don't forget the cost. Always keep an eye on your cost structure, because when you're building a business and you're growing really fast, you're kind of carrying out all these like back-end stuff. You have this, think about it like a cart that you're carrying around you, and you're running really fast to grow, and you put all these things in the back that may not be efficient, but they're working. But they're expensive. And so that cart gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and then eventually you're gonna grow, and then you're gonna slow down and maybe stop, but that cart keeps going, and it's gonna hit you really hard. And so just to keep that that metaphor in mind, so that when you're building your business, be frugal about your cost all along the way, because even when you're growing, eventually that's gonna slow down, and you wanna have that flexibility, and don't let that cost structure you didn't pay attention to take away that flexibility to pivot.
I'm gonna stay there. I wanna put up a screen. If we wake this back up to finish with, if you switch back to this computer, and if we can leave with this up, yeah. What should be coming up, yeah, good, is, so Diane and Dan and this growing list are what's been missing. I mean, they're each exceptional. They're both modest people, and they've run up billions of dollars of businesses and suffered endless pain and endless problems along the way. And it's not an MBA approach, it's a real living in the trenches approach. With this group, we explored formats of cohorts, classes, and what it ended up is really just a marketplace, a proposal pipeline, where we have a short list of questions that I have up, and this Distinct is focused on it's sort of a joke, distributed incubator, Distinct, and it's focused on Academy grads, and the reason we're doing that is the Academy process finds people, identifies, trains them, gives them skills, and builds portfolios that document that as an entry into this pipeline, saving all of those steps. And then we'll start taking proposals through it. And so in the room are some people, like Batul is one, I don't think Teddy is here, Danielle is one, who have done test cases of these. And the incubator is a chance to connect all of you with people like this. And sort of they're too valuable to do one at a time. This is a chance for them to do fan out across this network. And so we're still learning how to do it. We're doing test cases. We're going to run some of these through it. And the hope is to really scale this up as a distributed incubator, as an engine of business creation, and actually, sorry, as organization creation, because it's intentionally aimed at for-profit, non-profit, multiple bottom lines. There are many ways you can scale, but it's all about building organizational capacity. And so this is what's emerged as how we're going to try to fill this gap of falling off the cliff at the end of all the other stages we've done. I'm really excited by the team with this, and they've been helping invest in the support team to build this pipeline. So we're going to have a working group on this later this afternoon on the FAB roadmap, on the world building, and on the incubator. We'll be doing some trial test cases with an initial cohort through the incubator, and then turning it on at scale. And so for me, this has been one of the greatest frustrations about how we've been failing. And this really starts to feel like it's the right people in the right time to really make it scale. So with apologies to taking 15 minutes of your lunch, that's a tour through the science, technology, impact, future, and grounding it. Thanks to everyone who participated.
Where's the slide? Well, everyone, just to remind you that these initiatives this afternoon, we have working group sessions for them. They're in the schedule, but they generally run from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And so we invite you, if you're interested in any of them, to come and to participate in sort of thinking about how these play out in the future. So, yeah. So these are the locations and the timings for, we have a FAB Academy working group, we have a FAB1234, and we have a distinct working group. So please join us. And next slide. And just a reminder to join Suchit Jain and Abhishek Bali this afternoon for Ask Me Anything. So this is your chance to get in front of SolidWorks and ask them anything, okay? So our lunch now ends. We have between now and 2 o'clock. So please enjoy your lunch. Be sure you have your registration QR code so that you can have access to some great food. Thank you.